back to In True Conversations with the Soul True Network. And I'm so excited to be talking with Kardia, Dunah. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did. Kardia, Dunah.
Awesome. So I just love it when we have experiences because oftentimes during our self-care weekend, I have the opportunity to meet new women and we develop a relationship and we find out that we have overlapping circles and then we end up working together in some way, shape, or form. So I love it when that happens. It's in alignment with rules of engagement and how we're always navigating those overlapping circles. And my little rule of thumb is when I run into people or we have points of connection, usually my magic number is 3. Then I'm like, okay, we're supposed to do something together. So Kardia and I, do you want to share when we met?
So I remember us meeting at your self-care weekend that you host every year. And it was through a mutual friend, my boss, and your friend who we were able to connect. And she told me about the event. I was really excited to go. I remember being like the youngest one there, so I was a little scared and nervous, but it was just such a great place to gain so much knowledge and learn from so many women who looked like me. So I remember something that resonated when I had met you was your fitness journey and how that's fluctuated over the years. And that was something that I experienced through my own personal life. So I remember you sharing that with me and what that looks like and how you were able to get back on track. And it was all around very inspirational for me.
Absolutely. And I think grateful that you as a young person spoke up during self-care weekend because I'm personally always concerned about making sure the messaging is, relatable to all generations. So having young people, my daughter's age, young professionals like yourself, as well as seasoned women, and then our older, wiser counselors in our communities, want to make sure your voice is heard. And I think one of the things that you brought up, I think in one of the questions, was how to navigate it all. As someone, I'm always refer to younger people as eagles. My leaders who are emerging, they're aggressively, attacking their careers and trying to do all the things, but you wanted to talk about balance in navigating that. So what was that experience like for you, and how do you feel about how you're navigating right now today?
It's a lot better than it was when we had first met, and I think that self-care weekend allowed me to take a step back and reflect on what I needed to do to take care of myself so that I can continue pursuing the goals that I had in life. So that weekend was kind of like a reset for me. I think now I'm still, working through my own model that I've created to create that energy or make sure that I am navigating these different spaces in the best way that I possibly can, but that just requires me taking care of myself first. And I think that's what that weekend really emphasized for me. And so just taking it day by day.
Absolutely. And so a couple of things that struck me about you, as everyone can see, she's very physically fit. And I'm always, I take an assessment of myself physically to decide what do I need in this season of my life to take my health to the next level. And I was at that point where, different phases of my life, I have worked with personal trainers. I'm like, okay, I think this is my sign that I need to get back to that aspect. I do a detox every January and sometimes throughout the year. So I knew at the heel of this, or in the midst of this particular detox in January, I really wanted to engage in personal training and physical fitness leading into the summer. So that kind of worked out for us as you are evolving your role and your work in that space as well. So in terms of that, struck me and we connected on that level, but then you have a Liberian background, which really lends itself to maybe some of the work ethic and pressures. I don't know if that would be a good word to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah.
And how you are, trying to embrace your heritage, but not allow maybe some of the pressures that come with that, your culture, your cultural upbringing, and how you are, balancing both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. My background plays a huge role into some of the challenges that I've faced throughout my life. My parents were born and raised in Liberia. My older siblings were also born there. I was born here in America, but growing up in an African household in a American community was very difficult, and learning how to balance that or navigate that was really tough. I think in terms of identity, what I felt like I was supposed to do or called to do, it was just constantly comparing myself to what my parents told me or what my culture would recommend versus what I was hearing in school or church. But something that really, as I reflect back on life, stood out to me was my parents' work ethic, with them coming here to escape a civil war and provide an opportunity for us that they didn't get to have. They worked my entire life, so they had about 2 or 3 jobs pretty much my entire life,
Right.
and never really saw them rest. It was very rare that they had a day off. And so a lot of times that's what I thought my life needed to look like. And I think as I got older and with going to grad school, college and then grad school, I just started to become drained, but it was very hard for me to take a step back or to stop doing as much because that was what I was shown throughout my life. And it makes sense for them, they didn't really know anything different besides you have to work to make money to give my kids this opportunity. And although they had some of these different areas of their life fulfilled, like their spiritual and even their social health, throughout most of my life, I could definitely tell that they were tired and maybe weren't able to show up in other ways for us.
Right. And then you incurred a losses at a young age. Can you talk about that? And was that part of your epiphany?
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad had actually passed away about a week before I graduated from grad school, so almost 2 years ago now. And he was great man. He honestly, I have a lot of similar traits in him in terms of just being a go-getter and going after what I envisioned for my life. But that was it was the hardest thing I've experienced in my life, and I hadn't prior to that experienced a loss as great, but my mental health really took a toll. And it's interesting in this field, I had just finished up my master's in clinical counseling, and I have all this knowledge of what you're supposed to do when you're feeling depressed or anxious, or you've experienced a loss, what the grieving process looked like, but it was very difficult to apply that to my own life. So that was another huge part of my epiphany, basically, of my life is all over the place. I'm tired, I'm drained, I'm working 3 jobs, I'm about to start my career, I'm about to move, all of these things. My mom is in Chicago, so I was like, how do I navigate that with being so far away from her? So it's just a very confusing time of my life, in another area where it was hard to slow down again because I was just so wired to keep going, keep pushing, act like everything's okay, when really internally I was grieving or neglecting grief, honestly, some of those feelings that come along with it. So that all played a role in how, once again, this model came about with being holistically fit, how important it is to take care of our emotional health when it comes to what we go through in life, those unexpected changes, the moves, even the exciting things that happen. Yeah.
And then on top of that, you were a track athlete while you were in school.
Yes.
So you had to learn also how to fit in physically, taking care of yourself. Was that a good thing, or how did that translate then and now in your life?
Yeah. So I ran track for 13 years. And then in grad school, I coached track while I was going to grad school. So fitness and physical activity has been a huge part of my life as well. And it's been such a great thing to have. I think one of the hardest transitions that I had experienced in terms of physical health was from having a set workout routine. I knew I was working out Monday through Friday or Saturday sometimes. I had a weekly meet pretty much throughout my entire track career. And once that ended, it was really difficult for me to get back into a routine of taking care of my physical health, both in terms of movement, but also in terms of fueling my body and being mindful of what I ate. So that transition from, even when I coached track, what was great was I was around athletes, and I would even jump into workouts sometimes and try to race some of my athletes, which didn't work out too well all the time, but it was great to keep me in the headspace of movement is important and valuable. But once I was done with that, around the same time that my dad passed away, it shifted my identity. And I was kind of like, who am I without track, without my dad in my life, without this regimen where I worked so much from day to day. And one of the interesting things about graduating and going into my career field, I had so much more time than I actually ever had before, where I was working like a set 40 hours a week, and I didn't have to work on the weekends. I had worked pretty much every weekend since I was 16. Right. So I just had all this extra time, didn't know how to navigate it, but I knew that I wasn't feeling myself, and it was because I wasn't taking care of these areas of my life.
Gotcha. Now, how does faith play a role in, the pressure that you're feeling, juggling all the different aspects of your life and trying to figure out, how do you take all these different experiences and parlay it into a manageable life that's rewarding and fulfilling and feel harmonized or balanced?
Yeah, and how faith plays a role in that. I think my faith journey has been a roller coaster as well, and going to both a Christian undergraduate school and graduate school, faith and God was something that I was always exposed to. Also, my family being, my dad was a pastor actually and a teacher as well, so I grew up with devotions weekly and got to hear him preach a lot of times too, so it was always something that was a part of my life, but I didn't feel like I had really taken it on my own, or I hadn't made my faith my own until maybe undergrad. And then grad school was another shaky period where I didn't have that community, either socially or a faith community. So I kind of like fell away there. But once again, my dad passing away activated that part of me, like, God, why is this happening to me? And I think I asked myself a question is, am I able to still live a fulfilled life even with this big loss that I've experienced? And the answer is yes, but it took a long time to learn that or feel that sense from God. I think through finding community recently in church and going to a Bible-believing church where there's great teaching, I've been able to reconnect with God in a way that's personal, and it doesn't feel like as strained as it did when all of these challenges happened. But because even when I think back on my childhood, there were a lot of moments where I felt distant from God. So faith becoming a stronger area of my life, or something that I was able to refocus on, I think has given me the foundation to give me the strength to do these other things that I know are also going to fill my cup.